Sponsored by Stand Up to All Hate. Call a timeout against hate.
Let's talk about Norfolk State. Because Michael
Great
Vick.
transition.
Michael Vick.
From Tijuana.
It's the Tijuana of college football.
Mexico.
Or was.
You stupid. All right.
Michael
There
Vick,
was a connection there.
There was apparently was some sort of a bidding war between Sacramento State and Norfolk State. Adam Schefter had reported some stuff about Sacramento State, and him and Doug Gottlieb got into it a little bit on social media.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
But we talked about this a little bit yesterday, that there's going to be more people that think, oh, well, Deion did it, I could do it too. And I don't know if that's what Michael Vick thinks, but it is interesting to see that this is sort of becoming a common theme at the college level, at the high school level. Carson Palmer, Teddy Bridgewater, Michael Vick now, Deion Sanders.
A lot of
Eddie
people
George.
coach, man. A lot of former players coach. I mean, if you look at what makes up a NFL coaching roster, there are a lot of former players, a ton. You go in college, you look at the college coaches on the roster, they're probably most likely someone who played ball at a high level too. I just think that it's becoming more of a trend seeing higher profile people take these jobs and take jobs that aren't necessarily high profile. I think that's what's become a trend. Like, everybody's talking about the Deion Sanders effect. Deion Sanders started at Jackson State. So people might fail to remember that, but he basically what you would consider to be a modest, humble beginning. But what he did was he brought a lot of exposure to that program. He brought a lot of exposure to the conference that he was playing in. And he was able to bring, some sponsors to the table. And I would assume that these guys that are taking these jobs, like an Eddie George, I bet you he was able. I mean, he brought what? He brought who used to coach him? What was the former coach? Fisher. He brought Fisher. He brought a lot of high profile coaches into the fray with him when he took the job. And I'm certain he brought advertising dollars, sponsor dollars to the table as well, because of the type of relationships that he has. He's probably brought some prominent dollars to the table. Mike Vick has the same ability to do that where he's going. He's from Virginia. He's from the Tidewater area. So that would be interesting to see how that works out with him going to Norfolk State. I will say this, you're even hearing rumors and rumblings of Ray Lewis taking a job at like FAU, like taking the head coaching job at FAU. If you're connected to money, I know Ray Lewis is connected to a private, fund. Like, I think he started, with a whole gang of dudes like Gary Sheffield, and it's like a who's who of dudes in this fund. If you can bring dollars to the table, you can get dope-ass players no matter where you're at. And I think that think about it. The eventual Heisman Trophy winner of this year was at Jackson State with Deion Sanders. You ain't know at the time that Travis Hunter was going to win the Heisman Trophy. You know what I mean? But he still went to Jackson State and followed Deion to Jackson State and trusted the plan. So I look at this situation. I look at what's taking place. You see, Belichick. I'm blanking on his name. You see Belichick go take a job at the college level. Now you're hearing Mike Vick taking a HBCU, a historically black college job in Norfolk. Eddie George is there. There's probably a longer list than what I'm naming off right now off the top of my head. But I will say this, in terms of having an opportunity, because you hear a lot of times, and you hear it so much that, minority coaches generally feel like, they get looked over for major opportunities, major jobs. So, well, Bill Belichick is in a minority, but if you look at some of the other guys that we named off, they are. And I think it's becoming a thing where the opportunities can present themselves at, smaller level schools. And, we saw Ed Reed attempt to go do it. And Ed looked at it was like, no, I ain't getting down with this. Like, it needed to be a little bit better than this. But in reality, a lot of these guys, it's not just college that they do it. They do it at the high school level. You mentioned Teddy Bridgewater. They go into coaching at the high school level as well. So, Antonio Pierce went into coaching at high school. That's how I got into coaching, is Antonio Pierce pulled together this all-star cast of coaches. He pulled together Matt Hatcher, receiver, former receiver, I believe, of the Vikings. He brought in Chris Claiborne. He brought me in. He brought in Eric, what's my man's last name? Eric King. Why I blank on names right now? But Eric is my boy. But he brought in a who's who list of guys, because most times we're sitting there and I never wanted to coach, but I always was a mentor and always trained and taught guys. So it was interesting to have the opportunity to go coach, learn how to coach, learn the structure of it, and then I ended up being a head coach, at a private school, a prominent private school. And so to me, I think this is not something that's new. It's always been there. There's a lot of high-profile guys that coach. Jason Taylor coached for a long time. People ain't even realize it. He was coaching in Florida at a high school level. People didn't even realize he was coaching. Now he's at Miami. It's a lot. He was at Aquinas for a little bit. But I think it's just becoming more relevant because I think the exposure is a little different at this point now. But Mike Vick is such a big name that's going to ring headlines. But Deion Sanders, no doubt, has created a thought and an influence on, I can do that. I believe I can do that. I believe I can go, because Mike Vick, Cam Newton, those guys, like if Cam Newton popped up tomorrow and said, I'm going to coach at a university, he would have some of the best athletes in the country that would go there, just because he's had them. He's been doing 7-on-7 since he was playing. He had that 7-on-7 league and those teams since he's been playing. So those guys who have done it where they have the influence, Mike Vick has been connected to youth development. These guys that have been really connected to youth development and youth leagues and organizations and camps and different things like that, they have such a great rapport with these parents and these kids that now they're going into coaching and they're bringing kids in. So, it's going. I think it's a trend that we may hear some more bigger names going into the coaching profession.
It's interesting. It's going to be
I
fun.
think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You give back, Some
mentor.
guys can do it, some guys can't. Sponsored by Stand Up to All Hate. Call a timeout against hate.